You know, when your friend shares good news with you and you feel tightness, or you're like, am I a bad person? Why do I feel weird right now? Or you've got a friend who starts hanging out with someone new and suddenly you're hyper aware of every Instagram story that you're not a part of. And now you're doing the math on how often you see each other versus how often they're seeing you. Envy and jealousy are actually two completely different experiences. And the reason that that matters is because one of them is giving you genuinely useful information about what it is that you want and desire. And the other one is fear. Good morning, and welcome back to the Sage Sorority. How are we all doing, guys? I'm your host, Chantel. If you are new here, welcome to the Sage Sorority podcast, where the only dues are your ears, never your dignity. I hope everyone's having an amazing week. First week of February, we are so back. Dry Jan is over. Lent is about to begin. And for all my baddies who are chronically online, we already know that we have become Chinese, according to TikTok. And I'm just feeling good vibes about February. And of course, today's episode is episode 52, which is insane. One episode for every week of the year for the Sage Sorority. Crazy. Time flies when you're having fun. Time flies when you're on a schedule. And time flies when you promise yourself and your audience that you were going to contribute once a week, every week for a year with no breaks. And I've done it. Although I don't really know what's going on with the calendar because I launched Sage February 12th, 2025. So technically, I still have like another 10-ish days. So I couldn't really figure out why. And I tried to ask ChatGPT and it didn't really give me an answer either. I was very confused. But we're going to just say a little quick woohoo for 52 episodes. And then, of course, I will definitely celebrate when I hit the day. I feel like when I hit the day, it's going to be super monumental for me because it's like, wow, I remember hitting play for the first time at my desk a year ago, being very nervous, spending very long on that episode, and yeah, just kind of letting it rip. And here we are a year later with a body of work that I am very proud of. This pod has not gone viral and has not blown up, and all of the things that you typically hear when someone gives you their highlight reel. So for anyone who's in liminal space, who's in the dip, who's still working, and maybe they haven't quote unquote hit it big yet, I'm right there with you. And I think that sometimes we can be really hard on ourselves when we don't have instant success because in the world of social media, that's all we're really fed nowadays. And I remember being a kid, being a teenager, even the idea of like working for yourself was something that you evolved to after a long career of working for someone else and gaining a lot of skill. So it just shows how quickly our world has changed. But I say all that to say, even though, you know, I don't do this show full time and I'm not like rolling in money because of it or anything of the sort, as you guys have heard, if you've been listening, there's been no ads. I'm genuinely, and I'm quite hard on myself, so I wouldn't just say this. I am genuinely proud of every episode. I gave my best every week. Now, sometimes my best was at 100%, sometimes it was at 90, 80, but I look back on every episode, the ones that did well, the ones that you guys love so much, the ones that maybe didn't hit, and I'm genuinely so proud of all of them. Like, I wanted to create this pod initially when I said in the reset, I was going to call it Voice Notes with Chantel, and I wanted it to just kind of be like me speaking, giving advice, because that is definitely a big role that I play in my personal life. I've got 3 younger sisters. I've got 2 younger cousins that I'm quite close with, among many more. And even in my friend group, you know, advice is something that comes to me very easy. And it's just kind of my thing. It always has been. And I wanted to just have a place where my younger sisters and my younger cousins, if they wanted advice, girl talk, and things that were not trite, things that were not overdone, things that were honest and textured about real life, there's a place that they can go to and they can listen to someone who has walked in their shoes, but not so far ahead that I've lost perspective. And then on the other side of that, I also wanted something for women in their 30s that wasn't just centered around men and motherhood, because I feel like it really funnels into either of those, if not both, very quickly. And with good reason. Those are very major moments in a woman's life, especially being a mother. It is, I think, the most profound experience on this earth, but that's not my experience. And whether I'm niche or I'm not, there's other women that are not having that experience by choice, by circumstance, or maybe somewhere in the middle. And I don't feel like there's enough quality content out there for women like us. Fact. So that's kind of where both ideas for Sage came from. And they still lie. The crux of the Sage sorority is, and the little play on words is, Sage is evergreen, right? It's evergreen, it's ever flowing, it's ever knowing, and it doesn't expire. It is always in style, always in fashion, and always relevant. And sorority was just a tongue-in-cheek way of joining each other and being in community, although digitally, and soon will be IRL. I'm working on it. In a way that had meaning, that had weight, like a sorority does when you're in your 20s. So just giving a quick little refresher on that for anyone who's maybe joined since the reset and hasn't listened to the first episode, no worries. And that's what the Sage sorority is all about. That is what the Sage sorority podcast is all about. That is what the Sage Society will be all about, which will be our branch of in-person events. So that's a quick little refresher for anyone who's new or maybe just wanted to peel back the curtain a little bit and get more information. So like I said, this is episode 52. And if you have been with me for all 52 episodes, thank you so much. I love it. Tell a friend to tell a friend to tell a friend. That's the easiest way for the show to grow. And if you are new and still figuring out if this is for you, follow us on TikTok and Instagram. We post social clips and kind of just like face to camera videos of things that we're talking about on the pod. And it can be a really great way to dip your feet into more content if you so choose. If you are London based, I'm looking to throw an event very soon. I would say within the next month. I know I've said this before, but I'm actually serious about it now. I was super just unsure and had a lot of resistance to doing something in person because I've never done it before, but I am ready and I'm in the mindset, so I'm going to do it. So look out for that very soon. Follow me on Instagram at Chantel Russo and at the Sage Sorority because that is exactly where we will be posting all of the information. I think that is today's intro, a little bit of a lengthier one than I normally do, but 52 episodes of Sage, 52 weeks of Sage. So I think it is well deserved. Onward and upward. And yeah, to the next 52. So let's get into today's episode. As you can tell by today's title, envy versus jealousy. This is something that I think there's a lot of information out there, but it's not nuanced, it's not textured, and I don't feel like it gives enough information and how it shows up in our regular lives. So I really wanted to talk about something that has been on my mind. And you know, when your friend shares good news with you and you feel like tightness, or you're like, am I a bad person? Why do I feel weird right now? Or you've got a friend who starts hanging out with someone new and suddenly you're hyper aware of every Instagram story that you're not a part of. And now you're doing the math on how often you see each other versus how often they're seeing you, or the ever-present discourse online of introducing friends to each other. I know people that refuse to do it. I know people that do it willingly. And I know a lot of people that fall in the middle. And we use the word jealousy as this catch-all for anything that feels gross and competitive. Oh, I'm jealous of her vacation. She's just jealous of you. But here's the thing, right? Envy and jealousy are actually two completely different experiences. And I'm a stickler for definitions, so we're going to get into the actual definitions soon. And the reason that that matters is because one of them is giving you genuinely useful information about what it is that you want and desire. And the other one is fear. It is fear. You are experiencing fear and you're dressing it up as something else. So today we're going to unpack both, where they come from, how they show up, especially in friendships, because we don't talk about that enough, in a genuine, constructive way, I would say, and what to do when you actually feel them. Because, spoiler alert, these are natural, rational human emotions that we all experience at one point or another. And neither one makes you a bad person, but you do need to know what you're dealing with, where it's coming from, and most importantly, what you're going to do with that feeling. So let's go. So Merriam-Webster actually has a whole article on this because people conflate the words envy and jealousy all the time, constantly. So here are the receipts. Envy, by definition, is painful or resentful awareness of an advantage enjoyed by another joined with a desire to possess the same advantage. You get me? Cool. Jealousy is hostile toward a rival or one believed to enjoy an advantage, but also fearful of losing attention and intolerant of rivalry. The dictionary specifically says that jealousy carries this sense of zealous vigilance and applies to feelings of protectiveness regarding one's own advantages or attachments. The simplest way I can put it, envy is wanting what someone else has. Jealousy is fear of losing what you already have or what you think you have. So when you say, I'm so jealous of her engagement, what you actually mean is that you envy it. You are not afraid of losing anything. You just want what she has. Language really matters because the feeling is completely different. What I want you to remember most from this episode, if it all gets a little gobbledygook for you, is that envy is information and jealousy is perceived protection. Envy tells you what you actually want, right? When you feel that pang, like looking at someone else's relation, the yacht, the AP, her being in the Maldives, getting engaged, the way she carries herself, whatever, the hot husband, whatever. There's a lot of data in that. And your subconscious is saying, pay attention. You want something like that. The things that we envy are often more honest than the things we say we want out loud, right? What you envy is very deep. It's intrinsic. It's in you. It's something that you stuff down, and it's a feeling that we rarely articulate to one another. Jealousy tells you what you're afraid to lose. It's very protective. It's very vigilant. It's watching for threats, even perceived threats. Remember, jealousy can often also just be in your head. When you feel jealous, you're not wanting something new. You are guarding something you believe is already yours. And here's where it gets interesting, is that neither one of them necessarily makes you a monster, but only one of them is actually useful, if we're being honest. Envy, when you let it, can become a guiding principle and compass in your life. Envy can be really good if you feel lost, if you're confused. What you feel envious about is something that you deeply desire. Jealousy, however, when you let it, can absolutely become a cage that you built for yourself. So let's talk about jealousy in friendships, because I do think people talk about it, but it's in a very flippant way. Like, she's jealous of you, they're jealous of you. And I'm not saying those things don't happen, because they absolutely do. But sometimes it's so much deeper than that. And a lot of jealousy content is often about romantic relationships. And I think most women have felt both, but don't really know how to name it properly. Here's an example, like a promotion. So your friend gets a massive promotion and you feel something. Are you envious or are you jealous? If you're thinking, I want that for myself, I want to feel that accomplished, I want that recognition, that is envy. It's information that you too want career growth, that you too want to be celebrated. But if you're thinking, now she's going to be too busy for me, now she's going to think she's that bitch, now she's going to make new work friends, we're going to drift apart, now she's going to leave me in London, that is jealousy. You're trying to protect the friendship that you already have. You feel that the friendship is at risk. Another example is like the new friend. This is a very common one. So your BFF starts hanging out with someone new. They're posting together. All of a sudden they have inside jokes that you're not a part of. And if you're thinking, damn, I wish I had someone like that in my life. I wish I had someone new and exciting in my life. That's envy for novelty, for expansion. But if you're clocking how often they hang out, if you're monitoring their stories, if you're like, why the fuck are they going there? We never go there. You're doing calculations in your head about who she's prioritizing. You're jealous. You're trying to protect your position in their life. Here's another example. Weddings. Oh God. I think we all know that envy and jealousy surrounds weddings like a beautiful something blue cloud. So your friend gets engaged and you feel a little something. Okay, if it's, I want love like that, I want someone to choose me like that, that is envy. But here's the version no one admits to. If you feel weird because now she's going to have a husband, or if you feel like she does not deserve that, or if you feel like she's going to prioritize him and the friendship is going to change, you're going to lose your person, that is jealousy. And it's jealousy dressed up as sadness, but the core is fear. You're mourning the friendship that you're afraid of losing. You're trying to tear someone down so that they stay on your perceived level. There's tons of examples. It can be a glow up when your friend loses weight. It can be so many things. You guys know the cool girl monologue from the movie Gone Girl? Iconic monologue. The gist is like the cool girl is hot, the cool girl is fun, cool girl never gets angry. The character played by Rosamund Pike, who she's incredible in this movie, Amy talks about performing a version of herself to keep Nick, who's her husband. That whole speech is about jealousy disguised as devotion. She's not envying other women. She's protecting her position by becoming whatever he wants, because she's so afraid of losing him that she erases herself entirely. And I think that there's a friendship version of that too. The friend who never disagrees with you, who mirrors everything you do, who seems to want what you want, like what you like. Sometimes that's genuine compatibility, but sometimes it's jealousy. That's someone so afraid of losing the friendship that they've stopped being themselves. And we can spawn this off into other things. It's insecurity, it's a lack of self-worth, it's a lack of self-respect, it's a lack of confidence. All of the above. I talked about this in the dating episode 49, that line where I say we water down our needs and call ourselves chill when really you're not chill. You're just eliminating your own comfort for the sake of the relationship. Same energy, whether it's a man or a friend, that performance is jealousy, fear of loss, and making you smaller. And I'm painting these very vivid examples because I want you guys to see where it comes up, and in your own life, you can make the distinction. So let's talk about envy again. So I've never seen this movie, Amadeus, but when I was doing some research for pop culture references that really show envy, it came up. And it's from 1984, if anyone is interested, but it did win 8 Academy Awards, including Best Picture. So if you are a movie buff, highly recommend. It's basically told as a confession from an elderly composer named Salieri and looking back on his obsession with Mozart. The whole movie is basically Salieri explaining how he destroyed Mozart out of pure envy. What makes this pure envy is that Salieri doesn't want to take Mozart's music. He doesn't want Mozart's attention or his position. He wants to be Mozart. He wants that divine gift for himself. Roger Ebert, is he the one that passed away, or did they both pass away? If you are an elder millennial, you'll remember Siskel and Ebert. They were essentially the who's who in movie reviews back in the 90s. Anyways, Roger Ebert wrote something that I think is so profound. And he says, Salieri is not a great composer. He's a good enough composer to know greatness when he hears it, and that is why the music of Mozart breaks his heart. Ebert also said the film speaks to dark moments of urgent self-contempt in the face of those whose effortless existence illustrates our own inadequacies. That line, that is envy crystallized. And I want to go back to that because it is such a good line. I love when writers just really write. I'm going to say it again. The film speaks to dark moments of urgent self-contempt in the face of those whose effortless existence illustrates our own inadequacies. If you've ever been on Instagram or TikTok, I'm sure that you have felt this once or twice or thrice. Someone who just seems to be living effortlessly, and it makes you feel like you are completely inadequate. We'll talk about social media in a second, though. Salieri has just enough talent to recognize what he's missing. He's a girl, but he's not that girl. He's not protecting anything, which would be jealousy. He's aching for something that he will never have, and that ache destroys him. Sounds like an amazing movie. Highly recommend. So now let's go back to jealousy. Of course, I cannot talk about jealousy without talking about the great Shakespearean play, Othello. So, you guys know that I saw Othello a couple months ago with David Harewood, and it was amazing. But for those of you who are not familiar with Othello, the play, or you've never seen the movie, here's some quick context. Keep in mind, Shakespeare wrote Othello over 400 years ago. I think the approximate year it was released was 1603, which is insane. And it gave us the green-eyed monster. So that is what we often refer to with like envy and jealousies, the green-eyed monster. But anyways, Othello is a military general who marries Desdemona. His ensign Lago, his right-hand man, manipulates him into believing that Desdemona is unfaithful. So the famous line, "Oh, beware, my lord, of jealousy. It is the green-eyed monster," which doth mock the meat it feeds on. Lagos says this while actively making Othello jealous. The irony is insanely brutal. But what makes this pure jealousy is that Othello isn't envying Cassio's life. Cassio is who Lago makes Othello think Desdemona's cheating on him with. Cassio is just the guy that gets caught up in it. Othello is not thinking, I want what Cassio has. He's terrified of losing Desdemona. He's guarding, he's suspicious, he's vigilant. And here's the key line from Emilia, who's Lago's wife. I really hope I'm not confusing you guys. Jealous souls will not be answered so. They are not ever jealous for the cause, but jealous for their jealous. It is a monster begot upon himself, born on itself. I know that is like Shakespearean English, but basically what she's saying is jealousy doesn't need evidence because it creates its own proof. That's what she's saying, where she's like, they are not ever jealous for the cause, but jealous for their jealous. It's honestly, it's a trip that people used to speak like this. It creates its own proof. It feeds itself. That's why a jealous partner will always find something to be suspicious about. And honestly, that's why jealousy in friendships can spiral in the exact same way. So we're going to go back to Gone Girl for a second, because this is where it becomes extreme. Amy is the wife, and she disappears on her 5th wedding anniversary. Her husband becomes the prime suspect, which is very common. And there's a lot going on in this movie. If you haven't seen it, highly recommend. But Amy's entire plan isn't about envy. She's not wanting what someone else has, right? She loves her husband. She's punishing her husband for betrayal, for threatening what she believed was hers. She was his and he was hers. The cool girl monologue that I alluded to earlier is about how she performed a version of herself to keep him. And when he replaced her, he was cheating on her, with a newer, younger, bouncier cool girl, she didn't move on. She literally went insane. So this is obviously like a worst case scenario, or a very extreme scenario, when protection becomes possession, when guarding becomes very controlling, when what's mine becomes now what's mine at any cost. And obviously Amy was, like I said, an extreme example, but that seed, the fear of being replaced, being left behind, losing your position, a lot of people have felt a version of that. Okay, so we know what jealousy looked like in the eyes of Shakespeare, but yeah, it's not 1603. It's 2026, and I think for a lot of people, the most common ways where envy and jealousy really show themselves is on social media. Social media has fundamentally changed how we experience both of these emotions, and obviously how we experience one another, and to what degree we experience one another, arguably far more than even we did 10 years ago. And also, it's not in ways that we're always fully conscious of. Envy used to require proximity. You had to actually know someone, be in their space, see their life up close, talk to them on the phone, receive their letters. Now you're just exposed to curated reels from literal strangers, people who you will never meet in your entire life. Every time you open up your phone, you are being served many people's best moments. Best moment of the day, best moment of the week, best moment of their life. And your brain can't actually fully distinguish between someone you actually know and someone who just shows up on your feed. It processes all of it as comparison. So we're experiencing far more envy than any previous generation. So give yourself a little bit of grace, but also be aware. And most of it isn't even fucking useful because it's not attached to people that we know, or lives we could actually want, or lives that are actually realistic for the average person, or lives that we are willing to work towards. You are truly envying many people's fantasies. A 30-second, 15-second edit of someone's life that may or may not be real. And the longer you spend online, the more you realize how much of it is not real. The jealousy part that's sneakier. Social media also lets you surveil. You can track who's hanging out with who. You can see when your friend comments on someone else's post. You can monitor who liked what, who watched whose story, who's appearing in whose content, who's in whose close friends. 10 years ago, you wouldn't have known your best friend went to brunch with someone else. Now you know in real time, and you can spiral. And frankly put, it's just not information that serves you. It's fuel for jealousy. And the algorithm knows exactly what it's doing because it shows you the content that gets a reaction. And jealousy, rage bait, all of that garbage is highly reactive, highly favorable for the algorithm, and ultimately highly profitable. I spoke about this in the friendship audit episode, which is episode 25. Women operating from scarcity mindset versus abundance mindset. Someone having $1 million does not mean you have now lost $1 million, nor does it mean that you will not earn $1 million. That's the envy reframe. But the jealousy version, watching someone else get close to your friend doesn't mean you've lost her. There's more than enough love to go around. But social media is truly designed to make you feel like there isn't. Scarcity, scarcity, scarcity. So now what are we going to do with this? When you feel envy, I want you to get curious instead of critical. Ask yourself genuinely, what specifically am I responding to here? Not the whole package, but the very specific thing. Is it the relationship itself? Is it the job itself? Is it the job title? Is it the confidence she has? Is it the freedom? Is it the recognition? Get as granular as you can. That's your information, and that is your compass pointing you somewhere. When you feel jealousy, I want you to ask yourself, what am I actually afraid of losing here? Is this fear based in anything real? Or am I creating evidence that doesn't actually exist, that has not been proven to you? Am I protecting something valuable? Or am I just trying to control something that really is not mine to control? I.e., other people. Other people are not yours to control. Let's just remember that here. And of course, the permission slip is feeling either one doesn't make you a bad person. It really doesn't. It makes you human. The noticing is the work, and that is the difference between the good and the bad. You don't have to fix it in real time, truly. You don't have to immediately get better, and we're not toxic positivitying, spiritually bypassing our way through things. But sometimes clarity just comes from naming what's actually happening, and then you can collect 200 and pass go. In episode 45, I said being able to name things is actually so powerful because sometimes clarity comes from just noticing your own patterns and not necessarily forcing new actions. Same exact energy here. You don't have to act, you just need to be able to articulate and see things very clearly. So the next time you feel that thing, that pang, that tightness, that awkward feeling that you can't name, or maybe you can, ask yourself, am I wanting something or am I afraid of losing something? If you're wanting something, let it teach you, let it guide you, let it motivate you, let it point you somewhere. If you're afraid, let it show you what maybe you're holding on to tightly. Let it make you put more belief and love inward and not outward. And then decide if that grip is actually keeping you safe and grounded or truly just keeping you stuck. I hope that you guys like this episode. I'm surprised it took me this long to do it because it's something that I think about and mull over in my head very often. So if this resonated at all, send it to a friend, anyone who you think needs to hear it. Please rate, subscribe, and review the show. Subscribe to us on all major platforms, Spotify, Apple, and YouTube, of course. Don't forget to follow us on TikTok and Instagram. We upload social clips and relevant content to keep the discussion going. Of course, my anonymous link, if you guys have a Q&A, any Qs that you want me to answer is always linked in the show notes, and it's linked in all of our social bios as well. Don't forget to follow us on Substack for all my Substackers. It's also our email newsletter, and that's where all of our written work will be coming out. That's where paid Sage Sorority content will be coming out as well. I will also be emailing all of our Substackers about the event coming up within the next month. That will be in London. And I think that's it. I think that's all the housekeeping. I hope you guys have an amazing week and an amazing weekend. I will talk to you next week, same time, same place. Love you so much. Bye.